Hello, 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 and welcome to the Stride Report podcast. I am Ben Weissel, and joining me, as always, Garrett Zalin. How's it going, man?
Now, Ben, some people may be listening to this podcast and being like, I hope Garrett has a good excuse for why the just missed and honorable mentions from last night, Sunday night, were so delayed. Why were they so delayed, Garrett? Great question, audience. I'm so glad you all asked that question very explicitly. That is because I had to board my plane back from Chicago, your homeland, Ben, not once, not twice, but three times. They made us deboard twice simply because DC was like, "Nah, we're not gonna really see any visitors today." So they made us deboard our plane twice. It was like a 6 hour delay, and so I was 6 hours behind content, and yet we still got it out. So that's how my weekend essentially ended. And I hope yours was better than that. It had to be better than that.
Yeah. It's no delays. It was fairly sunny here, besides like the occasional just absolute downpour, which I'm sure you
Yeah,
experienced while
I
you were
did.
here. Just extremely volatile weather here, and very humid. So taking me back to Nashville days. But yeah, it was a good weekend. We got two new ratings on Spotify, so that also made me happy. We didn't get any
Yep.
on Apple, but hey, two on Spotify, we'll take it.
Pretty
The
good.
Apple people, it's your turn next week. We'll just do a week by week basis for these two.
Ben, today we'll just jump right into it. Honorable mentions and just missed, and we're going to chat about the top half, or I guess the first half of our individual cross country rankings, men and women for D1, the 31 to 50th ranked men and women, and we're just going to riff. We're just going to chat. We're going to have a good little chat. We've got a handful of questions. And if you want to go see the full list, if you want to figure out, where exactly some of these names are that we'll ultimately mention, you can go check out the site. By the time you're listening to this, it's going to be Tuesday night or Wednesday, or maybe later in the week. But by the time we release this, our just missed and honorable mention names should be released. 41 to 50 should be released, and 31 to 40 should be released. And then we'll chat about the latter half next week. So, Ben, with that, let's get started here. We want to talk about the big question that's on everyone's mind, and the question that I struggled with throughout finalizing these rankings: who got robbed? Who in our just missed or honorable mentions? Who should have been ranked? Who deserved to be in our top 50 but did not?
So let's start on the women's side. And for me, I think this was a pretty easy one. And that was Kira Moore of Northern Arizona. I'm very surprised that we could not find a spot for her in the top 50. I mean, you look at this resume. I mean, it's not like a all-American resume, but she was 60th at NCAA's last year. She was 31st at Prenats, which again, good, not great. Was 8th at Big Skies, has run well on the track as well. I mean, just coming off of running, let's see, she ran 4:16 PR in the 1500. She ran, I mean, again, the 10K wasn't great, but 5K she just ran 16:02. Like, she's running, and those are PRs for her. She's seemingly heading in a better direction. Track has never been like her best thing. She's always been a better cross country runner, and it seems like she's heading in the right direction after 60th place finish at NCAA's. And maybe this is me thinking through the men's lens, where it's like, all right, that kind of like resume gets you like in the top 40, almost, no doubt. Whereas on the women's side, it's a little bit deeper. I really liked what Kira Moore brings to the table for Northern Arizona. I was surprised that she was not in our top 50.
Well, not only that, but she's just an honorable mention. Like,
I
she didn't even
know,
make
I
our just
know.
miss section. And for me, I think it comes down to this: like, pre-nats was good, not great, but good.
Right.
And nationals was good, not great, but good. Big Sky is just not a competitive conference for Northern Arizona. It's just
Yeah.
not. And so you can't really factor that in. She won the B race or the open race or whatever you want to call it at Joe Piani, but like the competition wasn't there, right? You and I don't really look, or really anyone at
No.
TSR looks too heavily at the regional cross country results. So it's like you kind of look at those two results, and they're good results. But then you look at some of the other women in our just missed section, and you're like, they're just better. They're more proven, right? Like their track times were substantially, better in a handful of cases. Maybe more got them at the uh, national meet, but they were better at pre-nationals, and they've been proven more so otherwise. I don't necessarily disagree that like maybe she could have been in our just missed, but I didn't really. I wasn't too upset with her like where she landed.
So I guess that it's interesting because for me, I agree. Obviously, there's other women that have better track times, but I guess what I'm looking at is, hey, she's getting better at track. She's never been as good of a track runner as a lot
That's
of these
true.
other women, and so the needle is pointing up, and she's coming off of a 60th place finish where again that was probably the high watermark of her season was that NCAA performance. But again, those other ones, it's not like that she came out of complete nowhere to finish 60th, right? If you would have said she would have finished 60th after that resume, you would have like higher than I would have expected, but not like crazy, right? So I think that's where I'm coming at from with her is I think she's headed in the right direction. And if she's going to improve upon that 60th place performance, which I don't feel like it is that big of a fluke, it seems reasonable to expect her to land in the top 50 this year.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I need to see more data points and her put together a full healthy season at her best and have her differentiate. And I didn't think we saw that, which is why I was okay with her at honorable mentions. For the women's side, on my end, the woman who I wanted to rank probably Zena Jeptu. Zena
Hmm.
Jeptu in our just miss section. She's from Washington State, and she was just flat out great. She was really good. Like she never really had anything that was definitively a poor result, right? Like she did have a DNF at the Joe Piani invite, right, which is not ideal. But
Hmm.
outside of that, she was I think what 47th. I want to say as I'm pulling up her profile. Yeah,
Yep.
she was runner up in the B race at the Nuttycombe Invite. She was third at the West Coast Conference XC Championships. She placed 10th at the West Regional XC Championships, and she capped her season by placing 47th, 7 spots out from All American honors at the NCAA XC Championships. Then she goes on the track and she runs 8:56 in 32:23. But by almost every season that we've done this for, she's ranked.
Hmm.
She's ranked, and for whatever reason, we just couldn't get her in. And what I found was I thought this year it was actually more difficult for the women to rank.
Yeah.
There was more women to rank than I thought there were spots available. Whereas the men, it was like
The opposite.
it,
Yeah.
it was just felt weird trying to justify it because there were so many departures. But the women had so many international additions. They have a small handful of top rookies coming in who are excellent, and there just weren't a lot of departures. So that's why I think Jep 2 didn't make the cut. But man, I really thought she was going to get in there. Just couldn't.
Yeah, and honestly, a similar kind of argument for her against her, I think that you have with Kira Moore, where it's like you don't have a ton of data points against elite competition in cross country, right? You have a couple of them, but again, smaller conference running in a B race, and so again, if you're looking at 47th and that's just who she is, then yeah, it's hard to argue with that. And then also like on the track, she's running really well in the 10K. That's awesome. We've talked about multiple times in the 10K. Not as representative on the women's side as it is on the men's when you're running 6K in cross country. So I agree. I think certainly a resume that seems to merit a top 50 inclusion. But again, there was a lot of really good names included as well. But let's move on to the next question. Best All American chances in the honorable mention and just missed. And I'll start us out on the women's side. I have Julia David Smith,
Mm,
and I have her in here. You look at what she did during the track season, qualifying for nationals in the 5K. Didn't run great in the 5K, but did run 15:43. Had a solid indoor season, 4:36 in the mile, 9:05 in the 3K. Nothing spectacular. But you look at her cross country season. I really like you could see some flashes, right, at times. And I like Nutty Comb, 12th place finish. Big Ten, ninth place finish. You see NCAA's 73rd place finish. I just feel like again, the needle. I really like the direction she's headed, and with this Washington program, I really like the idea that she can make a big leap forward this coming season.
Well, she did just win the 5K at the World University Games, ran a significant 5K PR 15:34. And like that was like a no joke field, by the way. Like, yeah, it's not as good as the NCAA championships, but that was like a really nice win. And she was 12th last fall at the Nutty Comb Invite. Like, you've seen flashes where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
she can definitely be an All American, right? Like, there's those flashes that have come up. Some performances are better than others, right? Like you do want a
Mhm.
little bit more out of like her. I think at a pre-nats last year,
Her
right?
pre-nats was like
Um,
41st. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so not amazing, but like not like. But if that's her worst result, okay, so be it. So I see the potential. I don't know if I would quite go with her, just because I think there's just sometimes I don't like. I know I'm gonna always have like a baseline. She seemingly has a high floor, but I
Mhm.
don't know like how far above that floor she's always gonna be. So for me, I'm gonna say, oh man, it's one of two names. Can you guess the two names who I'm thinking of?
Let me pull up the list again. Oh gosh.
Just curious to see if you can guess them.
No, Ruth White maybe one of them.
No, no, that was not one of
Bila
them.
Jepkuri, which I have her kind of in another part, another answer, another
Yeah,
question to another answer.
I'm not really counting her because like of the whole like
Yeah.
we don't really know what she's done for the last year and a half kind of thing. No, I'll jump ahead. Um, it is either Agnes Mateague of Northern Arizona
Okay.
or it is Edna Chalule of Eastern Kentucky. Uh, Agnes Mateague was 29th, I want to say, at pre nationals last fall. Let me double check that. Oh, there we go. Yeah, she was 29th at pre nationals, and then ninth at the ACC Championships. Goes on to run 8:59 in the 3K on the track and 15:35 in the 5K. That latter time was en route to a PR where she earned seventh place All American honors at the NCAA Outdoor Championships. There is more good on her resume than bad. The challenge is that she was 130th at the NCAA Championships last fall, and that's ultimately the reason why you got to hold her out. But man, she's one of those women where I'm like, man, I know her national meet result wasn't great, but like, can we not cut her any slack? But I think she has clearly shown on multiple occasions that she has the talent. And then Edna Chalule, I really have some concerns and some cautiousness about how international names will handle
Right.
their first true season across country. 50% of the time they hit, 50% of the time they don't. But she's run 15:30 for 5K and 20 or 32:22 for 10K. She qualified for the national meet this past spring in both of those events. It wasn't an All American, but the talent's there. She can run fast in NCAA settings. How she handles the grass, a little bit of a different story. I think I would have liked to try to get her in there, but the talent and the proven ability to be an All American, I think, is at least there enough with Mateague and Chalule.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're looking for in this question is like who has shown flashes that they can at least be an All American, whether or not they have the consistency. That's why they're not ranked right in our top 50. But hey, are they showing those flashes? Let's rewind and go back to our last question. We can do these two questions on the men's side. So for you, who was robbed on the men's side?
Who was robbed of a ranking on the men's side? I gotta be honest. I don't know if we really robbed anyone. I feel like the justifications for a
Are pretty
lot of
clear.
these names
Yeah.
were pretty good. If there's one name that you can really, argue like in favor for is probably Dominic Serum, who was not great at the national meet last year, 172nd at the national meet last fall, which is bad. But he was third at the Princeton Fall Classic like that allowed him to take down what Marco Langen He was able to take down Colton Sands, Miles Hogan. Like, those are really good names. The only two men he lost to at that meet were Ethan Stratton and Liam Murphy. And so as I kind of think about, like, man, like that's his, like, at least that's his ceiling at the very least. So I think he has, I think that one race alone is enough to be like, hey, he probably deserved a ranking. And yet at the same time, the rest of his resume just doesn't have enough competition for us to, like, be able to justify putting him in the top 50.
Yeah, I mean, I have no disagreements. I struggled with this one too. I ended up picking Nicholas Benston, and I don't even really believe like that he got robbed. But again, you're talking about someone who ran 28-25 this past track season. He was 77th at NCAA's. And again, when you're going through this list, you're like, oh man, you showed any life at NCAA's. All right, let's put you in our rankings, right? And so that, again, the rest of his results though aren't very good. 103rd at Nuttycombe, like he was 15th at the Princeton Fall Classic, 8th at Ivy Leagues, which is solid, but not great. Like it just wasn't there's like some flashes, right? The 77th, the 28-25 doesn't make it to nationals in this past spring in the 10K. I'm not presenting a very compelling case here, but I think he at
Well,
least had some argument for the top 50 spot.
the argument that I think you're looking for was what happened in 2023 when he
Sure.
was
Much
fourth at
better.
Ivy
Yeah.
Leagues. Yeah, fourth at Mid Atlantic, 29th at the national meet, right? Like, that's what you're ultimately looking for, which is like, man, we've seen what his ceiling is. And now with
Yeah.
Virginia, like, what does he do at Virginia compared to Princeton? So I don't disagree with that. But yeah, there was the last season, like, if that was a down season for him and you're willing to believe that, like, he's gonna be better, then
Yeah.
yeah, I think the argument for him to be in the top 50 is, it's there and it's reasonable. And I don't think anyone would totally, like, I don't think anyone's going to argue with the idea of someone being a 29th place All-American from 2 years ago.
Yeah, yep, totally fair. On the next question, best All American chances in the honorable mention and just missed on the men's side for you.
Um,
I got one here while you're thinking.
Go
I
ahead. Yeah.
have Matan Avery of Wisconsin. In
Mm.
his freshman year, was I think just exceeded expectations in general, right? It started the season fairly slow. 10th at Big Tens though, 16th at Great Lakes, 58th at NCAA's. If we're talking, and then has a fine track season. 13:33 was his best mark during the outdoor season. Ran 7:52 indoors in the 3K. Didn't run well at regionals, but what I'm looking for is, hey, you have a ton of room to grow. Your first season, it seemed like it took him a while to kind of get his feet under him from an NCAA perspective, and then once he did, he was very very good. And I would expect him to grow even more from that experience. Runs 13:33 in the 5K, clearly capable and talented to run with almost anyone in the country from a pure talent perspective. You add in the more experience. I think he has a great chance at being a top 40 All American in his second year in the NCAA.
I've, of all the coverage that we've done with transfers and, writing these rankings, there's two teams that have popped out to me that I've liked way more than I thought I would. And one of
Mhm.
them is Wisconsin. The other was Syracuse. And maybe we'll talk about Syracuse at the for the team rankings later. But I love Matan Avery and Christian Duvall. I think they're
Yes.
so good. I think that's going to be great to pair him with Michael Wilson. I don't really know what their identity is. Like, I don't know if they have an idea, like, who's going to be the guy, like Bob Liking was. But
Hmm.
my name is Michael Morales of Oregon.
Mm.
I actually, because, and like, it's in a weird way of, like, he only had 3 races last fall. He was sixth at the Bill Dellinger Invite, a race where BYU swept the top 5. He then was second at the Big Ten championships. He lost only to Bob Liking, I think. I think it was just only Bob Liking, where he lost to him there. Morales gets second. And then he has just an off day The West Regional XC Championships is 21st, and it's brutal. But here's the thing: Oregon men are going to qualify for the national meet this year, no
Yes.
question. So there's no worry about how he handles himself at a regional meet. Like he will, as long as he's running well enough in the season, he'll be going to the national meet. I don't think you get second at the Big Ten championships, not especially not in this era's Big Ten
Hmm.
championships. I don't think you do that by accident. I think you got to be a legitimate All American ace to be able to do that. And as long as he's able to kind of replicate that kind of fitness, I think he gets a back end All American honor. Like I think I could see him getting 37th at next year's national at this year's national meet. And I don't think anyone would be like totally shocked. Like, whoa, Morales got 37th. Be like, yeah, it's about right.
Yeah, no, I don't hate that name as well. I mean, again, you're talking about someone who maybe doesn't have the consistency of having that higher ranking, but has shown the flashes of potential. Let's move on to the back to the women's side. Who has the best chance at finishing as a top 10 runner? Now, we're going to put kind of Bielicip Curie to the side, right? Because I think that's probably the easiest answer of anyone that isn't in our top 30 in our rankings, right? If she ends up being the Jep Curie that we've seen before, she absolutely can be a top 10 runner. Putting her aside just because of the uncertainty after we didn't see her last year, who do you have as the best, who has the best opportunity of being a top 10 runner?
So this for just for everyone listening. So this is now extends to our 31st ranked woman
Yes.
up to the 40s, the 50s, the just missed, right? So this now applies to the entire back half. Um, man, this is tough. Also, it's also fair that we should also mention until they're published, there's a chance we could switch around a few names. We've
Yeah.
already done that once or twice. So I should restate
Garrett
that.
always does this. If
I
if
do
there's
it.
anything you can count on in life, it is Garrett changing the rankings within like a day of posting them.
I was really good. I only did that a little bit for like the back end of the honorable mentions or things like that. So I haven't changed a whole lot. I think there's only like one name that I flipped around. But Ben, can you take this first? Because I'm struggling.
So who I landed on, and this is gonna feel like a little bit of a cop out because she's one of our highest ranking individuals in our 31 through 50 names, and that's Judy Kosky.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you just look at the overall resume. I think she was what 19th at NCAA's 2 years ago. Am I right in that? And
Yes.
50. Well, am I right? Was it
I,
19th 2 years ago?
Let me check. She was 19th. Wow. Good
Yeah.
memory.
Well, I had pulled it up earlier. I just couldn't remember
Okay.
exactly. And then 51st this past year, right? So didn't have the greatest NCAA performance, but was very solid again against limited competition last year in cross country. The only real race that she ran in before nationals was ACC's, where she was fourth, right? But clearly the talent's there. She can run with anybody in the country. Looking at this list, there isn't really anybody else that screams, "Hey, I could absolutely do this." It's you're taking long shots, and Koski still is a long shot, but you're talking about someone who at least has come within 10 spots of a top 10 finish at some point. So there is a little bit of a proven aspect to her compared to everyone else, where no one has really gotten even remotely that close.
Fair. And I think that's um, pretty good. Also, I'm going to disagree with you there. One woman has actually gotten closer, and that's Sydney Thorvaldsen of Arkansas,
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
who in 2023 was 11th. She was 11th at that meet, one spot out from the top 10. So when you want to talk about women who like could be top 10, you can't get much closer than
Yeah.
Sydney Thorvaldsen, who did that one spot off in 2023. She was injured going into last fall, rallied pretty well. I mean, 10th at SECs, 78th at Nationals, which may not seem great, but like again, she was coming back from an injury. She actually rallied pretty well, and she was 11th in the fall of 2023, like which is so
Yep.
key to remember. Since then, she was 10th at the outdoor national meet in the 10K this past spring, where she ran a PR of 32:21. This is someone who has shown the pedigree. She has proven that she can thrive on the national stage. She's been consistently great in the longer distances, has run a PR, which I think is really important to note, especially as we go into the spring season. I'm not saying that she's going to be a top 10 name. I don't think that she'll, frankly, even be a top 20 name as her ceiling this
Mhm.
season. But can I see her, like, if anyone of this group that we're talking about, um, if anyone's going to do it, then she could do it. Now, she's got a ways to prove herself, right? She still has to rally back from you know, a cross country season where she wasn't at 100%, but the prior experience and past success is at least there.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good one as well. Very very kind of similar, not profile, but the same arguments that you're coming at
Right.
with Judy Koski as well. Now on the men's side, this is also a challenging one. The one that I came up with here was JoJo Jordan of Wake
Oh,
Forest. This is just like I banking on, hey, you looked exceptional. It's the same kind of argument that I made with Avery, right? You looked very good as a true freshman throughout the entire year. 47th at NCAA's in cross. Ran 7:53 in the 3K, 3:56 in the mile, 3:37 in the 15, 13:41 in the 5K, and looked really good at that East Regional in the 5K. Can he just take that next step forward, right? He's training every day with Rocky Hansen, who is a legitimate top 10 guy, right? What happens if he does take that step and is running a lot closer to him day in and day out? And then that ends up being where he finishes at the national meet. I didn't like a lot of my options here, but I
yeah.
think there is a realistic pathway to Jordan being that type of guy.
And it's funny because you picked Jordan, and I'm picking the guy who's one spot ahead of him. And I like how we're not really specifying where
Right.
this is.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm taking
That's a good one.
Villanova's Bailey Habler for pretty much the same reasons. Do I think he's going to be a top 10 name? Probably not. No. But the upside is so immense.
Hmm.
And he showcased tremendous comfort on the cross country course last fall as a redshirt freshman. This is a year where, we've been told that Marco Langen will likely be redshirting. Liam Murphy is no longer around. They need someone to really step up. And, like with the options that we have in our 31 to 50 range, the upside plus proven aspect is just not as concrete as it is for Habler than it is for anyone else. So I'll take Bailey Habler. I think he is, I don't want to say I think he's like Pat Toonan light, if that makes sense. Uh, for right now, like right now.
You're a worse version of the worst version of a guy who won an NCAA cross country title,
Who's
which can
really
still get you
good.
in the
Who's really
top
good.
10.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just the Aussie connection, right? Because Habler's Aussie,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, so I
sure.
think that's probably where I'm probably drawing that connection from. But yeah, I'll take Habler.
Well, and again, to further similarities, you're running and training with another potential top 10 guy if he were to run this year, and Marco Langen, right? Like
Right.
you're going to be training again with someone who has that capability, and if you can improve to that point, you certainly could see him much higher up on the leaderboard than we would expect. Moving on to our next question, we have most accurate ranking, and we'll start on the women's side. Who did you feel like we ranked just perfectly?
I never feel like we ranked anyone
I know. I was
perfectly.
gonna say this is like the worst question in the world for you.
Um, yeah, this is really hard. I think Aaron Vringer of Utah. I think between the spurts of what she showed last year versus like how her season ended versus how she fared on the track,
Hmm.
on the track this past spring, 15:42 in the 5K PR, nice. 4:10 in the 1500 at Big 12s, nice. Helped her DMR get fifth place at the national meet. She was 8:54 in the 3K. Really good stuff there. She was sixth place at the Nutty Comb Invite last fall. She was second at Bill Dellinger. She was eighth at the Big 12 XC Championships. And then she was 68th which is not bad at the national meet, but 68th, it does kind of like limit that upside.
Yeah.
Um, so I thought like Vringer was rewarded for the consistent excellence that we saw. She didn't necessarily like, our jaws weren't dropping with her performances on the track, but they were great. They were really good. And as I look at the as I look at the entirety of her resume, I go, I think she was probably rewarded with her spot for the excellence that she showed in a variety of really unique like races. I think, but I think there's the national meet kind of limited kind of like what we thought her upside could be, and I think that's why our ranking is a nice reflection of where we ultimately put her.
Yeah, no disagreements there. It's funny, we we keep doing this. We pick, like, the same exact type of athlete, and I'm gonna go with someone who is 10 spots below her in our ranking, and
Mm,
everybody get out your bingo card. Ben's gonna talk about Sienna Chisholm in a preseason ranking podcast. It happens every year,
happened
but
last year.
I think a lot of the same things you said about Ringer, I would apply here. 12th at Pre-Nats, 5th at Joe Piani, 6th at ACCs, 3rd at Great Lakes, 81st at NCAAs, right? That was by far her worst race. But you look at what she did indoors: 15:23 in the 5K, 9:01 in the 3K, came during the outdoor season, ran 15:33 in the 5K there, running well. Again, the consistency isn't quite there, as it hasn't been really throughout her entire career. But I thought she put together arguably her best cross country season that she's ever had last year, up until the national meet when she was very consistent. She was up in front of these very, very good fields the entire season. It just didn't close very, very well. So I think where we have her within our top 50, I think she's very deserving of that honor despite that 81st place finish, because I think they're just she proved that I think last year that she can be that consistent all-American type force day in and day out. And if she could just finish it out with a top 40 place finish in the national meet, then I think that's exactly what we're kind of expecting out of her with our ranking.
Yeah, and I would even give her like a little bit of a nudge. It was like the more I kind of like look at her resume, it's really like 15:23 is no joke. It's a
No.
really good mark. The problem, like the difference between Chisholm and Vringer is that Vringer had a breakout 2024 cross country season, right?
Yes.
And like,
Yep.
yeah, the national meet wasn't quite as good as what we wanted it to be, but it wasn't bad. And it's not like that's a trend, right? Whereas for
Right.
Chisholm, not showing up at the national meet has admittedly become a trend. Like
Yep.
that was her second time placing 81st
Yeah.
exactly at the cross country national meet. Um, so like that's ultimately why like I have a little more cautiousness.
Mhm.
The inconsistency is challenging, but you can argue that like, hey, in terms of pure cross country talent, um, like Chisholm's just as good, if not better. And so it's
Mhm.
a very fine line to ride. But yeah, I kind of figured you would. I was listening to the other last year's podcast earlier today, and you asked me the question, I guess, last year, like, who do you think I'm going to take? And the whole time I'm like, Garrett, say Siona Chisholm. You know it's Siona Chisholm, and I didn't. And I was very upset at former me for not picking her.
Yeah, I'm nothing if not predictable sometimes. There's the athletes that I have a unhealthy obsession about, and for whatever reason, she has been someone that I've tracked throughout her entire career, and she's just it's been a fun ride. You know, you never really
Yep.
know what you're gonna get. You have some high highs and some low lows. Moving on from the women's side, most accurate ranking on the men's side for you.
I will take Evans Kiplagat of New Mexico. He is I want to say, a two-time All-American. Did I get that right? Yeah, two-time All-American, 33rd in 2023, and he was 40th at last year's cross-country national meet. 63rd at pre-nats, not ideal, but fourth at Mountain West. I think it's more so for me the combination of being a two-time All-American on the grass
Hmm.
and trying to justify those two aspects while being like, hey, you didn't really like do anything particularly amazing up until the national meet last fall.
Yeah.
He didn't necessarily like dramatically hurt his stock, but at the end of the day, like the guy shows up. He
Mhm.
shows up when it matters. And I think our ranking is like, hey, we're not like going to give you the immediate bump that comes with just a bunch of seniors departing and you immediately just getting a boost because you're a two-time All-American. But I don't think we didn't necessarily hurt him in our rankings with
Mhm.
like, hey, just because that one pre-nationals race didn't go so well, we're just going to ignore your two All-American honors. So I thought we found a decent middle ground with him. I thought it was an appropriate spot. I feel like he has a pretty predictable ceiling in terms of what we're going to get out of him, and I was pretty happy with where he landed.
Yeah, for someone who didn't have the most consistent cross country season last year, you feel pretty solid about being like, yeah, he's just going to be an All American. Like, we don't think
Yeah,
he's going to be a top 25 guy, but he's you feel pretty good about him being in the top 40, top 45, right? A good spring, not a fantastic spring. 28:05 in the 10K, very very good result. Nothing else that really like was like 13:35 in the 5K. Again, good, but not like spectacular. And I think that also impacts his ranking. Whereas, like, all right, you're not going from 40th at NCAA's down to 25th in our ranking because of all the graduates. You didn't really seem to take much of a step forward necessarily during the spring. For me, I'm going to go with a middle distance runner, and these are notoriously hard guys
ooh,
to rank, but he's someone that looked really good during the spring. Ran 3:37 and
mhm.
13:31. Do you know who I'm going with here?
Wait, he ran 3:37 and what?
And 13:31 in the 5K.
Oh, that's Simeon Beerbaum.
Simeon Beerbaum won the 5K at Big Ten Outdoors with that 13:31. He had he had his best race of the season, I think, at Big Ten championships last year as well, in cross country, 22:57, fourth place finish there. 74th at NCAA's. I love where we have him. I think it's perfect. Like right on the cusp of being an All American. I think that's the exact kind of expectations that we should have for him. Very like Colin Salmon like, where it's like,
Yep.
all right, you're a good 1500-meter runner with range. That means you're really a great 1500-meter runner with range. That doesn't mean you're going to be like a top 20 guy because 10K is way different than 15, but you
Yep.
have the capability of being a very, very good scorer. And that's exactly where we have him ranked. And I think that is totally appropriate. Now, could he maybe take it a step forward? Yeah, but I don't think we're going to wake up and he's going to be again a top 20, top 25 guy. I think even at his very best, I would be surprised if he got all the way up there. But I do think he's just going to be a dependable All American fringe guy for really the entirety of his career.
And that was the other name that I almost picked. I was like, I just feel really confident about where we have
Yeah.
him. I think it's an appropriate ranking for just the natural growth that we're expected to see out of him, what he's shown on the track, for just how he fared at the end of last fall. I think he was 74th at the cross country national meet. I
Yep.
want to say. Yeah, and then was it, and I think he, the mass departure of seniors ahead of him. I think all of that in mind, I think where he's at is perfectly appropriate. So I am with you there. But Ben, those were the guys. Although, did we already talk? We already spoke about the women, right?
Yeah.
We just,
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we
okay. I
already did.
was gonna say, um, the names, however, that we really didn't have a good idea of how we were going to rank them. How who are those names? Start us off on the women's side. Who is the one name where you're like, I have no idea how we could possibly rank you?
So I'm gonna look more at like let's see, because we talked about this a little bit last week, and I don't want to duplicate any names that we had in there. Let me see. Mentioned Ruth White last week, and I think that's a good one. How about Carrie Balaga of NAU? Again, steeplechaser, hard to gauge. She comes in with all this pedigree from high school. Doesn't really put it together at Colorado. Now at NAU, been there for I think 2 years now. This will be her second year, right? At NAU, I am kind of waiting for the big jump, and I think we're baking in a little bit of a leap here in our ranking. But I don't know how much to expect, and I think that's why there's a lot of uncertainty about ultimately where she lands in our rankings.
Yeah, I get it. Also, I totally forgot that we just did an entire podcast on this exact question last week, so my fault. But yeah, I mean, hey, listen, 937 in the steeplechase this past spring. Like, yeah, she didn't fare well in the finals, but 1524 in the 5K. The talent's there, like the pedigree's
Yeah.
there, the recent success is there. You know, the ability to thrive on the grass. Seventh at Joe Piani last fall, clearly not at 100% in the
Mhm.
postseason, but like you can just see the talent. The talent is there.
Yep.
So I don't. It is a very fine line to kind of like balance. But the name that I had the most trouble with is Florida State freshman
Yeah.
Riley Blade. The girl ran 15:16 for 5,000 meters on the indoor oval, 3 seconds behind Jade Hendegren at the Nike Indoor Nationals this past winter. She is aerobically one of the most naturally gifted distance runners that I've seen come out of the high school ranks on the women's side.
Mhm.
And you know, I don't want to say the most, but she's one of the most, right? Like there's the Caitlin Tuohys of the world, the Parker Volbys, who Volby eventually developed, right? But Jane Hendegren, of course.
Yep.
But Riley Blade ran 15:16. Like, how do you nowadays? That's still a crazy fast time. It's a ridiculously fast time, but it's a new era. And freshmen are just so inexperienced. It's hard to know what their ceiling is. I feel like she's got a crazy high ceiling, but are we not like how do you not be too over eager? And is 15:16 like what does that mean for the grass? Because she was 28th at NXN last fall, which is a clear fluke. Like she's clearly better than that. You
Yep.
can see the conflicts that this creates for us internally. Really like Riley Blade. Like I could see her being just like a borderline next Parker Ballby. I truly believe that she has that ceiling. I really do. But I have no idea like where to put her right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I have her in our next question actually, but on the
Yeah.
men's side, no idea how to rank. I'm gonna go with Thomas Boyden of BYU,
Good.
who transferring from Stanford has shown flashes, and I'm going through his T-first, and I'm like, there really weren't as many flashes as I thought, at least on the grass, right? There's some seventh place in Pac-12s in 2022. There's the ninth place at ACCs last year, 22nd at Prenats. They're nothing like crazy, right? I think he was 75th in 2023, or no, 2022, excuse me, at NCAA's. Had a really good track season this past year, or very solid 741 3K, 1321 5K, both indoors, 2806 in the 10K outdoors. Didn't make it to nationals though in either the 5K or the 10K. He was such a like tantalizing runner at Stanford, and I'm very curious to see what we get out of him at BYU. You would think that hey, maybe a change of scenery will help him be a little bit more consistent running with a BYU team who is usually very consistent in how they perform. I have no idea what we're going to get out of Boyden this year.
His national meet stuff is very frustrating. Like
Yeah,
you
it's
can
not great.
see that he has tons of talent. But the national meet stuff is really frustrating. You're like, just like what? You're so good. I know you can be better. For me, it's Abraham Chalengam of Oral Roberts. The competition he faced was essentially Oklahoma State last fall, and like even then, that was kind of just
Yeah,
I didn't really know how to like evaluate that. Like eighth at the Cowboy Jamboree was good, and he also faced New Mexico and Oregon there. But like that was just such an early, late September race. Don't know how to evaluate that. Third at Weiss Crockett Invitational. Not entirely confident what Oklahoma State was doing in that race. Felt like half of them were trying, the other half were not. He wins the Summit League XC Championships over Carson Noker, who's in our Just Miss section, who like I don't really even know how to feel about him. So how do I feel about this? And then he gets 87th at the cross country national championships. What do you do with that resume? I have no idea. I have no idea what you do. I felt like I'm like, okay, he's talented, like he's a national caliber name, but I have no idea where in the mix that puts him. Like, I don't really know if like it's rare that you get someone where you're like, wow, I really learned a lot about what your talent is on the national scale, but I don't really think like we actually learned anything concrete about you either, which is a very odd dynamic to have when ranking someone.
Yeah, he would have been hard even if we assumed Oklahoma State was running full out and not
Right.
doing anything weird as it was. And then you throw that curveball in there and you have just truly have no idea, especially since Oklahoma State underperformed at nationals like compared
Yeah.
to expectations. It's all of that like so much of his resume is tied to them and then they don't really perform as expected. It's an extraordinarily difficult one to rank. So I totally understand you on that. Let's move on though, and let's go to who has the most future value on the women's side. Again, this is where I had Riley Blade for all the reasons that you outlined. She's someone that could come in, be an All-American from the get-go, and be a four-time All-American. Like she has so much talent. She could be a future national champion in cross country or on the track. She has that kind of talent, and you have 4 years of that. It's rare that we see this type of talent come in and be the second freshman in her class, right? Because how good Jane Hendrickson is. I think if Jane Hendrickson didn't exist, we would be talking about Riley Blade a lot more.
I agree. I completely agree. Actually, I think that's a great point. For me, it's Edna Chepkamoy of LSU,
Yep.
and really, it's just because there's limited options of underclassmen that you can realistically
Yeah.
pick in terms of future value. But six in the 10K at the NCAA Outdoor Championships
Mm-hmm.
this past spring, she was 32.10. I want to say, is that correct? I'm taking a look. I don't even know. I think she was 32.10. Yep, 32.10 in the
Nice.
10K. Thank you. The talent's there. She should be great on the grass. And even if she's not like top 30 on the grass this fall, like she's still probably going to be pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And at least for the future, she'll be pretty darn good. So, kind of an easy one there, kind of an easy given what she's already done. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'll take her.
Yep. No disagreements on there. On the men's side, this is an interesting one. I think you could go two of the guys that we've talked about already, and Habler or JoJo Jordan. I think you could maybe go with a Jeffrey Kirwa, Simeon Beerbaum, who we talked about. Where do you land on this one?
I mean, I think it's either Jordan or Havler. Again,
Yeah,
I don't want to kind of be repetitive here.
yeah,
You can maybe make an argument of like if you want to really go into like honorable mentions or anything along those lines. But
yeah,
no, I think we can kind of be quick with this one. This is just a Havler. It's Havler or Jordan. I think are the only
yeah.
correct answers here. So
Yep, totally agree. All right, last question we have, and this is purposely vague, as most of these are. No real criteria other than what Garrett and I come up with in our heads, and this one is no exception. Personal favorite on the women's side. Who do you just irrationally like more than anyone else on the
do,
women's side?
do you want to say both of ours at the same time?
So mine's gonna be different than I think you're expecting, but yeah, let's go ahead.
Ooh, okay. Well, and then obviously it can't be Sienna Chisholm because you already spoke about her, right?
Yeah, exactly. We can't.
Um,
We're not repeat. I'm not repeating any names here.
Okay. I'm trying to. I just really quickly want to try to see if I can get this in my head about like who I think you're gonna take, and I think I know who you're gonna take. Okay. All
Okay.
right. Ready. Well, I'm gonna say mine. You say yours. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Here we go. Three, two, one. Kaya Robertson.
Chloe Forster.
Oh.
Wait,
Okay.
who did you
Interesting.
say?
I said Kaya Robertson.
Ah, okay. All right. I like that. That's a
All
good
right. So
one.
go ahead. You tell me more about Chloe Forster, though. Why is she your personal favorite?
Yeah, I feel like she got a little underrated last year with the way she was on the track, and she didn't obviously have the best finish at NCAA's in the 1500. But I really do feel like she has, after a breakout year 2 years ago, really established herself as one of the best runners in the country. And I just really like what I saw out of indoor and outdoor season. Cross country performance wise, again, how much does that translate? But I do again, on the women's side, I do look at track performances a lot more because you are running a 6K. These middle distance runners can climb up. She was sixth at Big Tens. It's the cross country national championship that kills her in our rankings, right?
Mhm.
183rd there. But I really like what we've seen out of her, and she's shown flashes of being able to translate that progress on the track to the grass. And I just think she took a monumental step forward in just her mentality and consistency this past spring. And I think we're going to see that in a big, big way this fall. I'm just really excited to see what she can turn into on the grass.
I also like her a lot as well. I think that the regular season in Big Tens was really good. Like the Nutty-Gone was
Yeah,
okay, but to see her,
yeah,
remember she was 47th at the 2023 cross country national meet, right? Like this is a good three
mhm,
season runner. I think people will think of her as a middle distance runner and a track runner, but she is very good on the grass too.
yeah.
The last fall I think was a fluke though for the national meet, and I also think that the
I agree.
the Washington women in general just peaked too early.
Yeah.
So that's just my personal opinion. Kyle Robertson, for me, very underrated. Six at Joe Piani last fall is a very good result.
Hmm.
Six at Arturo Barris Invitational. I don't know if it necessarily like helped her stock, but I don't think it like hurt it in a significant way. Like she beat some pretty decent names. She goes on and gets third at the Mountain West Cross Country Championships against, you know, New Mexico's Pamela Kosgei and her teammate Yasmin Margini. She was less than 2 seconds behind. She beats an All American in Mercy Carrari. Like I'm going through that, and then she's 53rd at the cross country national meet. She goes to
Hmm.
the track, 4:33 mile PR, 4:10 PR over 1,500 meters, and she qualifies for the outdoor national meet in the 1,500. I just think there's a lot of great all around value. She's solid. She's consistent. She has a high floor. She's consistently translating her performances from one season to the next. I just think there's a lot to be said about high floor women who are able to consistently deliver, even if it's not super explosive all the time. And at least have solace in knowing that you're going to get great value out of that runner every single time, and that's why I like Robertson.
Yep. Yeah. No, totally agree. And a similar profile to Chloe Forrester with
Yeah,
the 1500, 800-meter chops, who has the ability to climb up and run really, really well in the 6K as well. Last up on the men's side, who is your just irrational personal favorite out of this 31 through 50 just missed honorable mention group?
oh gosh, it is Havler, but I'm not gonna say Havler again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna go with Miles Hogan of Princeton. I like Miles Hogan of Princeton a lot. I think he was very underrated. He ran 13:37 for 5K this past spring. But on the grass, he was 26th at Nutty-Combe Invitational. It's like, okay, pretty solid. And then 8th at the Princeton Fall Classic. Pretty good. 5th at Ivy Leagues, 7th at Mid-Atlantic, 64th at NCAAX Championships. Again, the very almost identical profile to Robertson in terms of like just what they're
Yeah.
what they bring to the table. High floor, very consistent, now experienced, ongoing success on the track. Not going to be the guy that wows you the most in every field or every race, but really solid across the board. And I think deserves recognition as someone who will be a legitimate low stick. And if they continue to improve, maybe even an All American this fall.
Yeah, yeah, I like it. I feel like the Ivy League guys in general just kind of fly under the radar more often than not because they don't usually run. You don't see them at the highest level of competition uh, more than a couple times a year, right?
Yep.
And I feel like they get lumped in with their teams more often than not, unfortunately.
I said Ben Rosa of Harvard last year, so
Yeah, yeah,
clearly I have an
that's
Ivy League bias for
that
whatever
tracks.
reason. Yeah.
That's funny. All right. I don't really love a lot of these guys in this range. So I'm struggling. You know what? Give me a Isaiah Story. I just
Mm,
he's had such an interesting career. I don't know if I love him from a running perspective of like what we're seeing results wise. You just never know what you're gonna get, and I'm
yeah.
gonna go with the exact opposite of your criteria, which seems to be like consistency. You know what you're gonna get out of him. You don't know what you're gonna get. Story.
You
It,
just don't
it's
know.
it's it's a mystery box, which is thrilling to watch. And he holds the key to like this Notre Dame team, which we'll talk about more, in his hands. Like if he's good, Isaiah Story, they look very, very potent. And if he's not, they lack a little oomph to that lineup, right? So I'm endlessly fascinated by him. The decision to go from Notre Dame to Oregon back to Notre Dame. I'd love a 30 for 30 short on that. I think that would be very, very interesting. Can we create the 30 for 30 shorts for
I'll
cross
talk to
country
our
and track
freelancers and
athletes?
get back to you. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to just know what was going on there. You rarely see people transfer back to a college they started at. But yeah, I just very interesting. I'm not giving a whole lot of analysis on the actual times or results that he did because that's besides the point. You get he's a vibes guy. You just seeing what happens. You don't know what's gonna happen. You're just there to enjoy the story of it all.
Oh, the story. I see what you did there. That was good. That was very good. Oh, Ben, you're so punny. Yeah, 24th at the NCAA Championships last fall after being 30th at ACCs. He was 6 spots worse at ACCs than he was at the national championships, which is insane. He was also like, he ran 28-25 at the Raleigh Relays this past spring. And then from there ran 14-18 for 5K, 14-06 for 5K, and then didn't record a time at the East Regional Championships.
So
You
he
have
basically
zero
ran
clue.
2 5Ks that equaled his 10K.
Yeah. Yeah. You have zero clue what you're going to get out of him. Zero. So very the complete that's a very anti-Garrett pick of you to say that.
Had to throw one in there, just to
Yeah.
just to throw you a curveball.
All right, that's it. That's all we got. That was our sections 31 to 50 and just missed an honorable mentions. We'll talk about our top 30 when we come back for the podcast next week, maybe along with some news if we have the time. But go check out the Stride Report. We were going to have USA's coverage as well, so go check that out on our Instagram. We got go follow on TikTok. Leave 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify, on Apple. We're getting some great metrics there. Really appreciate everyone doing that. And Ben, I think that's it. Go check out the Stride Report. Go look at these rankings. Get a subscription. Okay, now I'm actually done.
This is the time to get a subscription. Like I don't give many like shout outs for subscriptions, but like this is the time. This is I think Aaron and I have talked about this. This is when I found out about the Stride Report. I think 7 years ago. I think
dude,
is right. It was I saw someone share one of the preseason rankings. I was like, no one else is doing it like this, and this is really good stuff. And I became a fan, became a writer shortly thereafter. So if you want to get hooked on the site, if you want to get hooked on really good quality content that gets you ready for the cross country season before anyone else and better than anyone else, sign up for a subscription. Look at these cross country rankings. They're without a doubt better than anything you're going to get anywhere else. So that's my plug. Nice little trip down memory lane 7 years ago, which is
that was scary,
staggering. But until next week, Garrett, I'll talk to you.
I'll talk to you.